Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to Sri Rupa and Gaura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, today we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 12. Savai Nivriti Damena.
Savai Nivriti Damena.
Vasudeva Nukampaya.
Vasudeva Nukampaya.
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena.
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena.
Tirodate Samehiya.
Tirodate Samehiya.
Savai Nivriti Damena.
Savai Nivriti Damena.
Vasudeva Nukampaya.
Vasudeva Nukampaya.
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena.
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena.
Tirodate Samehiya.
Tirodate Samehiya.
Sa, that, vai, also, nivriti, detachment, dharmena, by engagement, Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anukampaya, by the mercy of Bhagavat, in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhakti Yogina, by linking up, Tirodate, diminishes, Shanai, gradually, Iha, in this existence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. By that misconception of self-identity, can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, through the process of devotional service to the Lord in the mode of detachment. Please repeat. But that misconception of self-identity can be diminished by the gradual mercy of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, through the process of devotional service to the Lord in the mode of detachment. Purport. The quivering quality of material existence, which comes from identification with matter or from thinking oneself under the material influence of philosophical speculation to be God, can be eradicated by devotional service to the Lord, by the mercy of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. As discussed in the first canto, because the application of devotional service to Lord Vasudeva invites pure knowledge, it quickly detaches one from the material conception of life and thus revives one's condition of spiritual existence. Even in this life, and frees one from the material winds which cause one to quiver. Only knowledge in devotional service can elevate one towards the path of liberation. The development of knowledge for the purpose of knowing everything without rendering devotional service is considered fruitless labor, and one cannot get the desired result by such labor of love. Lord Vasudeva is pleased by devotional service only, and thus his mercy is realized by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Pure devotees of the Lord are transcendental to all material desires, including the desire for the results of fruitive activities and philosophical speculations. If one wants to acquire the mercy of the Lord, he has to associate with pure devotees. Such association alone can, by degrees, release one from the quivering elements. Let's read the verse again. But that misconception of self-identity can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of Godhead Vasudeva through the process of devotional service to the Lord in the mode of detachment. So we have many misconceptions in our lives, and this is probably one of the biggest ones, the self-identifying ourselves with our bodies. We can, by the process of devotional service, through knowledge and detachment and associating with devotees, as it says here, gradually overcome this misidentification. We have misidentified who we are in so many ways. You know, we, especially in this day and age, we have all the social media, so we can make out like we're some great big personality. We can do so much. We're so famous. We're so happy. We're so whatever it may be. But these designations that we think will give us happiness will only cause us more confusion and more frustration because they're not who we are. We have to begin our journey from wherever we're at, and that's okay. But we also need to understand that we are a spirit soul. We're a spirit soul, and we're doing business as a human being, and I've got myself into this mess, and through this process, we can get ourselves out of this mess. So how do we get ourselves out of this mess? Anyone got any ideas? How do we get ourselves out of this mess? Definitely. Good association. Anything else?
Hare Krishna.
Chant Hare Krishna. Anything else? Serve the devotees. Eat prasadam. Read Srila Prabhupada's books. Chant. So we all know what we should do, but to be able to apply that in our lives, it's not easy. So this is the importance of association. It gives us, I remember Sachinananda Maharaj, when he was here doing the Holy Name Retreat, he was talking about the 10 offences, and the root of all the 10 offences is the, anyone know what it is? Inattentive chanting. And then he was saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur breaks that offence down into 3 other categories. He says that our mind is a bit disturbed, a bit uncontrolled, is one of them. We're lazy, and we have this tendency of indifference to the holy names, which means, like, we try and find, while we're chanting, we will always find something else to do. We'll check our phone, or something will come up, and instead of just sitting and chanting, we find an excuse to do something else, even for a minute or two. But he said this is what he called the indifference to chanting. And interestingly enough, the remedy for curing all of these 3 things is association of people who are not lazy, they're enthusiastic. So, they have a taste for chanting, or they're trying their best to, overcome that laziness or whatever it may be. And those whose minds are controlled to some degree, pretty hard to do that all the time, every day. So associating with those whose minds are reasonably controlled, not those who are out of control. And those who, when it comes to chanting, they give their all, their focus, and they're in there, they're giving it their best. So we need to see, find association in these ways. And it's not that we should, especially among devotees, we should not, think someone's better than the other because of, this one's chanting much more attentively than this one. But it's a what do you call it? It's something we need to be aware of in our progression and our devotional service. And among devotees, we all have our conditioning. So according to that conditioning, sometimes we can't, for whatever reason, go as deep as we would like to, but still we're trying. And that's the important factor, the sincerity in our endeavor. That is the most important factor, actually. So we can help ourselves by doing our best. We had Mahatma here a few weeks ago, and in his self-care course, he was talking about the true aspect of self-care. It's not just going and get a massage and sitting in a spa and with the bubbles and stuff. He said that's okay, but self-care means to take care of the self along with the body and the mind. So it has to be a holistic approach to fulfill all of our needs. So we need to see from a point of view where the most important aspect of my being is who I am as a spirit soul. And our decisions our choices that we make need to reflect that. And if it's not, then we need to adjust that. So the Association of Devotees will definitely help us with that. They sometimes a little too bluntly can tell us in ways. But if it's coming from a place, of care, then we should be humble enough to accept that. If it's not, then that's another thing. If somebody's just trying to lord it over you, then that's a different thing. But if you can feel there's a care in that mood of trying to correct you in some way, then that's okay. But if there's some other intention, then try and find someone else to share your thoughts with. Prabhupada was saying in the purport, the application of, is there anybody, Prabhupada is elucidating to a verse from the first canto of the Bhagavatam, I think it's the second chapter, where he says here, it quickly, because of application of devotional service to Lord Vasudeva invites pure knowledge, it quickly detaches one from the material conception of life and thus revives one's normal condition of spiritual existence, even in this life. Can anyone remember that verse? Yeah, that's the one. So therein it says that by pure devotional service, one automatically gains knowledge and naturally becomes detached from the material world. It's not a process where we need to practice detachment just by practicing devotional service sincerely. These things happen. It's a natural. It's like a byproduct of devotional services. We gain a healthy detachment. We can see sometimes when new devotees come, they have like a false. They just renounce everything and I don't need that, and they want to give everything up. And then later on, I was one of these. So, and later on, I was thinking, I was like, geez, I could have used a lot of that stuff. But so it's a stage some of us go through. But the detachment and the knowledge, with that sincerity, with inquiring submissively from spiritual masters, from other devotees, Krishna will inspire us from within and from without with the devotees and our spiritual master, that the knowledge will come. We have to read, we have to make that endeavor, but the realization and the depth of understanding we get is because of our practice of devotional service. It's an important thing because sometimes we want to force it. We want to know everything. We want to give up the world. We want to understand Krishna right now, and of course that's how this world is. We want the quick fix. We want it now. If I can't get my download in 30 seconds, I'm not happy. So the devotional service is different. That's like, I just keep going back to sincerity, but sincerity will help that download come faster. That's all I could to put it in a nutshell. And yeah, through the purification process, we see who we are materially, and as those things come up, sometimes it's not so pretty. We have to in the process of getting rid of these designations, it's like Prabhupada would say, it's like taking the layers of an onion. So one layer, another layer, another layer. And in the end, there's just us, the spiritual person, standing there. But that process can be painful because, again, we're so attached to our designations of who we think we are. And then when we start to see ourselves at a deeper level, there's a lot of things in there that we may not like, we may not appreciate, but they're there, and we have to do something about it. We have to deal with it. And Prabhupada would give the analogy of a pond. Pond looks very nice and clear, but if you get a stick and you stir the bottom, then the mud comes up. So he says by this process of Bhakti Yoga is like stirring the heart. So although we feel, many of us, before we were devotees, we felt like, yeah, I'm a good person, I don't do anything wrong. And, But as this stirring in the heart takes place, we see there's a lot of stuff in there starting to come up in the process of the anatta nivritti. We start to see and experience emotions and feelings and desires that we may not have had before or come across before. And that can be confronting, and it can slow people's progress down. But in those moments, again, don't think you're alone in that. Everybody who is chanting, everyone who has accepted this process is going through similar things. So don't ever think it's just you going through these things. It's everyone has. So you can approach the senior devotee or someone you have a nice connection with and just say, hey, look, this is what's going on for me right now. I feeling like this, and a lot of times people can become discouraged if they feel like, I'm not as good a person as I was before I started chanting. So sometimes that will go away in that kind of sort of moroseness. But the quickest and the best way to overcome all of these negative situations is to actually take more shelter of chanting, especially chanting and association with the devotees. And I find in my life that those two things have helped help those things move fast through. Like if I didn't keep chanting and I didn't keep my practice, then those particular feelings and emotions or desires would stick with me for a lot longer. But just because I'm making that sincere effort to keep my practice, even though some days it's really hard, that is what is needed to move through all these anarthas. And if I could, yeah, that's what I would suggest. It's not easy, and of course this association is crucial again. So association, with peers, with seniors, with juniors, it also helps us to have a more rounded devotional life. Because when we're just with our friends, sometimes they'll just agree with us and not necessarily, see something that is happening with us, but they don't necessarily say something. They'll just let it go. Oh yeah, it's okay, whatever. So if we're just necessarily like in one group of these, our peers, and sometimes that can happen. But if we have seniors and they see something, then they will maybe, they'll say, hey, I've noticed this is happening. Do you think this is okay? And then again, like with the juniors, it is our responsibility to help them. So by sharing, by having friendship, and by opening up or taking advice, it helps us to develop these qualities of a devotee more and more. And that's what it means to be a devotee. It's to, this is a Hare Krishna movement. We need to be moving forward in our own personal lives, in helping others understand who they are, and through the practice of devotional service, then it's a blissful experience. I might stop there. I didn't even know I was supposed to give class today, so I'm sorry I've been waffling on a bit. So anyone has any questions, corrections?
In regards of association, since that you suggested it's the solution for everything. So sometimes we may think, okay, I'm associating, I'm friends, I come around, or I live in the ashram or in the farm or whatever. But since you spoke or mentioned Bhaktivinoda Thakur in regards of the, being distracted or lazy and that sort of thing. So what is the attitude in regards of that association? Because, as I said, sometimes we may think, okay, we are associating, right? But, I speak for myself, but that association, I may not be taking advantage of, full advantage of that. So what do you recommend in terms of taking advantage of that association? What would you say?
Thank you. Yeah. We can be in the association and still feel very lonely, for sure. And that's one aspect. With senior devotees, we need to try and do some kind of service, some service mood with them. Inquire, ask questions. For your peers, peers, I would say, it's a friendship. So friendships are less formal. Sometimes with your seniors, everybody's different, of course, but with the seniors, sometimes there's a bit more formality. Other seniors is very casual. So it's up to the individuals to understand that, how everybody likes to be related to. But generally, with your peers, it's a bit more friendly and open, jolly, joking, those kind of. But also, Krishna has to be there in all these different concept that just shooting a breeze about anything and everything. Sometimes happens, but Krishna has to also be part of the conversation, some way or other. And with the juniors, we can ask them, how you guys going? You okay? You need anything? How's your reading going? How's your chanting going? Just because a lot of times, if they are having a problem, they won't say, because they feel maybe ashamed or they're not good enough or something. But if someone asks them nicely, you okay? How's your chanting? You need some help with anything? Then they're maybe more willing to open their heart to have that conversation. It's a few things, and you probably tell me much better than do you have some advice too, Prabhu? Yeah.
As Rupa Goswami, he defines what association means. The Dati Prakagrinanti Guriyamachiti Puchati. So if we follow that as our guidance for association, then the association is nourishing. But if we're not following that guidance, then we just, like you say, shooting the breeze. It's actually contaminating the consciousness. So if we follow those guidelines, then the association will be nourishing.
Anyone else have anything to share about association? Anyone else want to share something? Vaishnavi?
Thank you for the class. I was just remembering some years ago in Auckland, my Guru Maharaj Krishna Goswami, he was saying, because there was a guru who fell down and the devotees, it was a home program, and he wasn't really talking about the devotee, but he was bringing the lesson in that point is that everyone should have at least one person that they can confide in. Like even we went to Brisbane a couple of days ago, and my Guru Maharaj brought up the same point that we need to have someone who we can speak in confidence, even with our difficulties and things like that, so that they can help us. Not that people go on social media and advertise your difficulty, because everyone goes through difficulties, and it's not like it will stop even when we're practicing for 30, 40, 50 years. So he said the reason why that guru fell down was because he didn't have anyone he could confide in. So it's also, the onus is also on the individual, on us to find someone, at least one person that we can confide in, and who will help us in our spiritual life, and we are willing to take their correction, even though it's painful and we may be grumpy, or we might not take it at that time, but we know they are our well-wishers, and it's our responsibility whether we take it or not.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it doesn't matter where we are on the pecking order. We all need someone to be able to share our mind with. Okay, Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.